Welcome to the technology stream. We're the first session. We're going to give you a case study about ABM in action. We're going to show how Acxiom built a sales pipeline in 120 days. So my name is Embling. I'm the CEO of Strategic Internet Consulting. We're a B2B technology marketing agency. And I'm really pleased to be presenting today with Joe Robson, who's the International Marketing Director of Acxiom. And Joe's going to give her a bit of background about Acxiom and the context for this morning's case study.
Hello there, I've just been promoted. That's really good, thank you. don't tell my boss. I'm just going to give you a very short video. We're going to show you a very short video of Acxiom, so you've got a bit of context about who we are. And I hope you're wiser at the end of it. Acxiom is a marketing services company. We combine data, tech, ethics and ideas to help brands know their customer better, and so they deliver better customer experiences. That's it in short. We mostly look at customer data and the analytics around that, identity, and then enhancing that with third-party data. We integrate tech, and that's a very short description of what we do. Why ABM? I think we've been working with SIC for about 7 years, and we've probably been on a 7-year journey with ABM. But don't worry, it doesn't take that long to do. It's just some obstacles in the way, which we'll allude to today. So we started off running sort of tactical demand gen campaigns, which are very broad brush. And we're now working to a strategic blended campaign, one to many and one to few. And we'll take you through that process during the presentation. It's more than driving leads and pipeline. It's more than that, but I know that's what we all have to do because we've got to serve our business and serve our sales teams. But it's about a triage between the 3 R's. It's about reputation, relationship building, and that ultimately ends in revenue. And it's sort of the insights that you gather from that, and it helps you build that reputation with people and change perceptions. And we'll go into more around that in a minute around the campaign.
Yeah, and I guess on the changing perceptions, Joe, maybe talk a little bit about the background of Acxiom and how ABM has helped fulfill some of those remits that Acxiom have.
Absolutely. I think we've always been known for a third-party data provider in the industry just because of our heritage, and I think we're trying to change that perception in the industry that we do more than that. We're a technology company, we integrate tech. We look at customer data, so it does help us do that because you educate and you influence your target market with ABM, and we've certainly proven that over the last 120 days, and longer than that, we've proven that. I think in the last sort of 18 months, we've shifted focus to a vertical approach. These are our 4 main verticals. We do other stuff as well, but these are our 4 main verticals. And we did that because it's more targeted, more personalised. You can start to serve content to an automotive manufacturer or a retailer that actually resonates with them. We look at the challenges around those markets, and you build insights around those markets, which basically get better results. Today, we're going to focus on the automotive case study and how we had success in this industry. So we'll take you through a closer look, how we developed the strategy, the data foundations of the campaign, the insight development process. We did loads of research around this, the actual ABM campaign, and then we'll take you through the results at the end. So Alex will take you through a bit of the strategy.
Yeah, sure. So, as you all know, fellow B2B marketers in the room, all good campaigns are based around a solid strategy and making sure you get the best foundations to any campaign you launch. These are the steps that we took and worked through with Acxiom and Joe and our team. Obviously, step 1, building out that ideal customer profile. So everyone has an ideal customer profile. Looking at this case study, which was specific to the automotive sector, we had to take the generic ICP and then build that out specifically for the automotive sector. So what were the nuances in terms of job titles, job functions, looking at the buying decision-making unit, who are the people that we needed to influence, typically through a decision-making process. So that ICP and that buyer persona development, all standard stuff, but remember this is for purely the automotive sector. So what are the nuances as far as the ICP and the buyer personas are concerned? Account selection. This is where a lot of campaigns fall flat on their face. Most account selection processes as they stand today are a little black book. Some sales guys built an aspirational list of accounts that they want to go after, and it's based on the fact that you believe that those accounts should be buying for you. They fit your ICP, but you're then saying, right, well, here's a ton of accounts that fit our ICP. They should be buying from us. But the account selection process is more than that. And one of the reasons we believe this campaign has worked so well is that we've combined your ideal customer profile, first-party data, saying which customers do we want more of that we've already got, and then combining that with third-party data as well. We'll go into that in a bit more detail so that we're trying to find accounts that are in that active buying journey. So that account selection process was really fundamental to building pipe. The insights brief, once again, we're up in the level of personalization, so it's really important to make sure that the content and messaging strategy that we're running is all backed by insights, making sure that the message that we're taking to the market and to the cluster being automotive, is completely backed up and is aligned with the pain that Acxiom's products and solutions help solve. It's really important that you get that alignment in the content and messaging strategy. Otherwise, you'll get the leads and the accounts down so far, just down the funnel, and there won't be that alignment and connection with the product you're trying to sell. So briefing the team of analysts that we work with to build this piece of content or the insights report, which then informed the content strategy, was absolutely fundamental. Obviously, then you go through a normal buyer mapping process where you're figuring out what content formats do our ideal customer profiles and personas like to consume their content in, where do they like to consume it, and then that obviously translates itself into the campaign execution plan. And we've got a screen in the moment which will take you through that in a bit more detail. But just before we go into the detail of the campaign plan itself, we just wanted to bring up this account selection slide because, as I said, it was an important part of the success of the campaign. And the concept of combining the data you already own, so your first-party CRM data, and potentially looking at introducing third-party data as well. So you get that internal and external active market view. You'll see on the results slide, one of the accounts that we engaged that was driving the pipeline number was the AA. We all know who the AA are. And this screen...
It's the car company, by the way.
It's the car company, yeah. Not Alcoholics Anonymous, no. So the AA were one of the target accounts, and we can see on the screen using the third-party data intent platform, the correlation between the topics and keywords that we're monitoring. The topics and keywords were aligned with the products and services that Acxiom helps sell and solve for. And the graph on the right-hand side is their increasing level of intent. So this graph, in combination with the conversions that were happening with Acxiom's brand, gave us a really solid picture that this account was in an active buying journey. And what we're seeing is when you get those two data points intersecting, that's the gold dust of information, because a lot of, as I said before, a lot of campaigns are run purely on what you believe is the right data point to start with. So don't just trust your own data. Try and look for evidence externally as well that the account is in an active buying journey. Bring those two elements together and it's a very powerful combination. So Joe's going to go into a bit more detail on the insights development process.
So we think that insight and research is the foundation for ABM. Without that, you don't know what your market's doing, you don't know what challenges they're facing. So it's grounded in a deep understanding of our customers and our target market. Research has given us key trends, growth predictions, audience demographics, and that's obviously tied in with Acxiom services, but you're not selling Acxiom services. It should be at the bottom of that. But it has to resonate, it has to tie in with what you're selling ultimately. Yeah. And the insights informed all the persona development and the content strategy, which we'll take you through in a minute about all the content pieces we had, and the campaign planning.
Yeah, and so the insights report that we produced went into detail on the state of the automotive market for marketing. It also looked at the key trends and growth predictions, as Joe mentioned, and the brief that Acxiom gave us was, what are the digital marketing challenges, the technological challenges that the automotive industry are experiencing at the moment, and how can we align those with the solutions that Acxiom provide? So
now we're just going to take you through the campaign itself.
Yeah. So this is a summary of the campaign execution plan that we put together. working with Acxiom and Joe's team. This was a blended approach, as Joe mentioned earlier. We used a combination of demand gen, one-to-many campaigns, one-to-few, and all of these elements tied together. So you can see at the top, we have the top, middle, and bottom funnel campaign tactics, which were designed to generate leads within those accounts. We then enriched that with third-party data to build up that total active market picture, running a series of tactics at different buying stages, and introducing the SDR lead and account follow-up process at the right time when we had that right intent.
I think it's worth saying that at the beginning I said we were just in the demand gen to begin with for quite a few years, and the last 18 months we've embarked on the one-to-many and one-to-few, and next is one-to-one. But yeah, it's a combination of this is what you need to keep with, rather than just doing one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the important message here is that it's that blended approach which starts to generate results. You can see the white lines coming down from the middle of the funnel from one-to-many into one-to-few. And this is when we're starting to find those buying signals and seeing those accounts that are starting to show their hand, showing high levels of engagement, when we then start to build that business case for upping the level of personalization. And ABM is all about building that business case because, by definition, if you're upping the level of personalization and investing more time and money into a set of accounts, you want to make sure that they have the ROI, and you can build a business case internally to say, yeah, we're going to up the level of investment to X, just so that we can justify the potential ROI that comes out the back end of it. Yeah,
because as you go down this, there's obviously more heavy lifting in terms of personalization, in terms of investment. So you do need to bear that in mind, but it's definitely achievable.
Yeah.
So this is just going to take you through sort of the campaign itself. On the left, you can see the sort of content of the video playing in the background, but there's no audio, so you can't hear that. So off the back of the Insights report, we created infographics, blogs, a video awareness campaign, and in the middle, you can see where we actually executed that. So the demand gen in LinkedIn, content syndication, loads of other social channels. These are just some of the adverts that we displayed over a 6 to 8 month period. And then obviously, as you go through to one-to-few, which is the social selling, and then the actual SDR follow-up. So this is all quite a timely sort of process, and it was about 6 to 8 weeks, all of this program, which is why it works so well.
Just a show of hands in the room, actually. Is anyone involved in social selling campaigns at the moment? Have you enabled your sales teams for social selling? Great. Yeah. And it's a really powerful channel tactic when you at the right point in that campaign to up that level of personalization and leverage your sales guys' networks to support the campaign remit. Yeah.
We're probably now doing about 6 social selling campaigns with our sales guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really working.
Yeah.
So now the results. So it kind of speaks for itself, really. You can see the stats on the board. It took about 4 months, all in all, even though we said 120 days. Got the maths there. We engaged with about 86 accounts, but obviously that's different contacts within that, so it wasn't 86 new accounts. And then you could talk to the other ones, about 35.
Yeah,
so 35 was actually engaged.
Yeah, so we promoted 35 of the 86 accounts into a one-to-few. Yeah. So these are the automotive accounts, and of those 35 accounts, we generated 6 meetings across those brands that you can see on the screen there, Nissan, McLaren, the AA and the PSA group, which resulted in a £1.5 million pipeline in that 12-week period. I guess, just to note that obviously the AA is there as well. It's the combination of that first-party and third-party data to make sure you're targeting that right set of accounts and not just going after an aspirational list is really important here.
And just looking at more numbers, the actual audience size in LinkedIn for the ebook and the video was about 5,500, because it's quite a small market, the OEMs, the automotives. And we did expand that into Europe as well, because there's not many left in the UK. So it had to be a wider campaign. CPLs, you're looking at a cost per lead of about £104 in video and about £63 in the ebook, which is not bad when you've got 6 good meetings off the back of it. The social selling campaign was of about 1,000 we engaged with. And we got about probably about 16% hit rate on that, which is benchmark, which is,
it was really good.
So that's good.
And the meetings, Joe, they were across Europe, weren't they? They weren't just limited to the UK.
Yeah.
I think
PSA group is in Italy.
In Italy, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. So £1.5 million in pipeline. And for an ABM campaign, this is pretty fast ROI. And I think, maybe just another quick show of hands in the room. Has anyone embarked on an ABM pilot? Or where's your level of maturity? If I said you're at the pilot stage, put up your hands if you've already started. How many people have started ABM? Let's put hands up first. Okay, most of the people in the room. And would you say, out of the scale of 3, would you say your maturity is 1 being the lowest or 3 being the highest? So 1 show of hands in terms of where you're at. 2. Okay, and 3. Okay, interesting. So, the time to ROI here was fast, and we think it's because we hit that sweet spot of intent, third-party intent data, and that first-party data as well. So just some of the key learnings.
Yeah, we've already talked to the top line, the blended, the data and the insights. But I think key for us was the sales and marketing alignment, the collaboration with our new logo sales teams, new business, American term, sorry. And the fact that our SDR, which is sales development rep, which we call inside sales in the UK sometimes, sat within marketing rather than in sales. And we have that argument all the time with our organisation, that it should sit in sales. I don't agree. You need sales ones, but I think you need a marketing SDR. And actually the timely follow-up with an SDR team. They're the 3 things that I would take out of this that were very key.
Yeah, it was the SDR one is an interesting one because you get SDRs, BDRs, and the SDR they're a very specific skill set. They have a very specific skill versus the consultative salesperson, which is why we thought that having the SDR as part of the marketing team so that they could react and be agile, follow up with accounts and leads as they were coming in a timely manner. You maybe have heard other talks from other sessions around the importance of context, relevance, and timing. And those 3 things intersect. It's very powerful. But having SDR as part of the marketing team worked really well in this instance. Sales and marketing alignment. You'll read 100 ABM blogs and they'll all talk about sales and marketing alignment. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Obviously, upping the level of personalization is what gets results. We're no longer marketing to personas, we're marketing to accounts. In this instance, it was to a cluster of accounts that all had that common thread and common challenge. Blended approach and use of intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's next?
Yeah, what's next?
Where are we on that maturity scale? Before I go on, so we're doing it all. So we're now looking at 1-to-1 for next year. And we've had a lot of thought around that because we've only got a small team. There's only 2 of us in the UK doing all of this. So you can do it with a small team, even though I think quite stressed. So we're looking at new clusters. We're looking at really targeted account selection. So almost like 1 or 2 large accounts because it's quite an investment and it takes a lot of time personalising that. Add to that?
I guess on the 1-to-1. With account selection, as far as 1-to-1 is concerned, we typically advise our clients to focus on those accounts that are either existing customers, where you have maybe other land and expand opportunities. So you may have other cost centers within other regions that you're already working with. You can maybe build a case study around and then take that into other regions. Or there's a high value known opportunity because ABM is all about ROI. So before you put any investment in any ABM campaign, it's really important that you've done that due diligence to make sure that whatever you invest in has the highest possible chance of delivering value back. Otherwise, the business will start to lose faith in any pilot programs that you run.
And it's probably the best way to start is with an existing account where you're only getting a certain amount of traction with them with one element of your services and then expanding into that rather than starting with a new logo one.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be more onerous.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and it's important to understand where you're at with that account as well. Maybe you've got a bit of business within one particular region. Maybe you need to create awareness within other regions. So what does that campaign strategy look like as well?
It's interesting how much it costs. It seems like impressive results,
Yeah.
but
I knew that question was going to come. We did talk about this before.
We did. Full disclosure, we're pretty transparent. Yeah. We have a very open relationship. So Acxiom invested with us over that 4-month period around about £55,000, plus a little bit of media spend, and that generated $1.5 million. Yeah. So do the maths on that. So about 300. Thanks. Yeah.
Hi.
So to one-on-one marketing, it's great. We all acknowledge that if it's existing accounts, great. But what if you want to do more growth marketing and new level acquisitions? What are your tips?
Well, yeah, I mean, we recently had this question actually from our new logo team who's actually answering an RFP. So you're kind of down there already in that process. And we debated this because we don't know them very well. We're just answering an RFP and there could be 10 of us answering an RFP. So you really got to consider this when I'd rather go to an existing account where you can grow more and you know you can grow more in that account because you can see the gap analysis and the white space. You know, RFPs could just be they're looking for pricing. They're looking for a pricing comparison and then you've wasted all that money. Whereas you know with an existing account, they're embedded in your organisation already.
If I may qualify,
Sorry.
there is reactive sales and there is proactive sales. I was referring more towards proactive sales where you know there is a demand and this is your target that you need to grow, but new logo.
So you have a very clear ideal customer profile that you want to go after.
Yeah.
So that comes back to making sure that the list of accounts that you're going after isn't just plucked out of the air, because that's very high risk with very low potential for return. You know, you read one report from the next, they reckon 5% of the market is ever in an active buying journey. So you have 100% of your ideal customer profiles globally. Only 5% of those guys are ever looking to buy. So it's making sure you use that first-party, third-party data.
I need to look at the screen.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
So the third-party data through Science, your intent, did
Yes.
you use that just for account selection, or did you use the information from it to inform your content to the AA over time?
We used it to align with the content strategy. We also used it in our social selling lead follow-up as well. So when our SDRs have been plugged in at that point in the campaign process, they also used the data that the third-party platform had to give us that account level insight so that we can just, at a lighter touch, because one-to-few isn't one-to-one, so we don't want to go deep on the accounts, but we want to just up that level of personalization enough so that our message resonates with that account. So yes, we did use the insights. So a couple of other questions on there. What have we got? Is there an ideal mix between first and third-party data used for ABM programs? We typically look for the intersection in between both. So you can obviously run campaigns on first-party data primarily. If you don't have the first-party data, use third-party data in isolation to give you a better steer on which accounts to go after. If you have a list of accounts, overlay it with third-party data just to prove that those lists of accounts are worth targeting. Sorry, I'm just looking at the timers
the top
here.
one identified.
How did you identify the right contacts within your target accounts? Well, that's where the buyer personas come in.
Yeah.
So you need to have that historical sales data to say these guys are typically involved in the decision-making process. Overlay that on top of the accounts. The use of third-party data quite often gives you the office locations where the activity is happening as well. So that gives you a really good focus.
The level of job title is below C-suite. It's marketing director and below, I'd say. And then analytics, CRM, database, those kind of people, because that's what we're after. We are embarking on a C-suite campaign this year because we haven't cut through that yet. It's much harder to find them and get response from C-suite.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you had demand gen above one-to-many.
Yeah.
On one of the slides, which I was surprised to see. So are you treating demand gen as pure awareness, or are you targeting specific
Target audience.
It's a target audience, but and this isn't necessarily the case for Acxiom. But what we're seeing in the market is, the concept of ABM when you're selling into mid-market and enterprise with the more complex sales cycle lengths, there's still a lot of pressure on traditional demand generation programs to still deliver the leads. Yeah. Okay, so the recommendation at this early stage of ABM adoption is to have that blended ABM approach, because it allows you to pilot a more targeted, account-focused program whilst you're keeping the business satisfied with the leads still coming in at the same time. And that's not to say demand generation doesn't work, because of course it does. But it's about de-risking, really, because it's all about ROI. It's all about investment in and ROI out the other end. And having that balanced approach is what we're seeing in the early adoption phases of ABM.
Just to add, Alex, just to add to that, the demand gen is, we don't just chuck them over the fence to SDR and say, call them up. They go into a Marketo engagement program. So then they're nurtured again with some of the assets we have and then some case studies and that kind of thing. So we're nurturing them along the way. So we're developing that kind of relationship to maybe get to the one to few and one to many.
Yeah, and absolutely. You can also then jump into your third-party platform and validate that those accounts are active in other areas as well and not just with your brand. Yeah. So it helps across, it's all these data points. So end. That's it.
At least you didn't do that.
That's it, yeah. I'm taking that personally.
Okay, thank you.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. It was obviously these sessions are quite short, but any questions, grab us afterwards.